I did something crazy. I let ChatGPT roast this channel. If you want to hear the results, stay tuned. This is another Rage Against the Audacity behind the scenes. So, I did the viral trend of letting ChatGPT roast this channel. And I got some good feedback and a good roasting. And that's led to me wanting to change some things up. So, we're going to talk about what the roasting said. We're going to talk about the changes that are occurring to the channel because of the roast, and maybe some other things. Overall, I believe that ChatGPT roasting the channel, it was a fair and thorough roasting. I couldn't argue with any of the results. One of the things that it said about the channel was that it felt that I was AI. And I didn't know whether to take that as an insult or if I should take it as a compliment. On the one hand, to me, that made me feel like I sounded great and that my post production work was pretty on point if it can't tell that I'm a human. On the other hand, I've been working really hard in terms of doing these behind the scenes to make sure people know that I am not AI and that I'm a human. One thing was I was going to start doing what I call a walk and talk, where I was going to walk around my neighborhood with my dog and just talk to you guys about some things. And I'm still going to do that. I just want y'all to know that I have tried to record probably about 6 times while walking my dog, and it's been a disaster each time. One reason is because I sound like I'm about to die because I'm out of shape. The other reason is my dog is a maniac. And if he sees somebody or another dog, he acts like he's Cujo, and he is not. And thirdly, we get the inevitable poop session. And then you got to hear me with the plastic bag and praising him for going poop. And then hear me picking up the poop. And it's about to start getting really hot. And so that will make me sound even more like I'm about to die. I still may do it, but right now for this episode, I'm just gonna sit at my desk and talk with you guys. Another thing it said because it thought I was AI was that there weren't any irregular pauses. You couldn't hear my breath. And I take all that out in post production because I don't want you guys to hear all that nonsense, but we're going to try to leave that in sometimes. I guess imperfection is perfection. Another thing it said that I was AI is because I script. And no lie, I script. But there's a few reasons why I script. First reason is because I think the content and what we're talking about here is so important that I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to leave anything out. And I don't want it to be confusing. The second reason, which probably is more important than the first, because if I didn't have ADHD, I could probably do the first more easily. But because I have ADHD, I can wander. Okay, so the situation would be that I would start a point, get halfway through that point, think of something else, and go down that road, and then get just about to finish that point and realize I didn't finish the first point and go back to the first point. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to waste your time. I genuinely want to have clear, cogent, well thought out things to say because of the content, and me wandering is not going to help the situation. And I guess, I don't know if you guys have picked this up. I am using this as a processing tool for myself as well. I am walking around and seeing the world, seeing people, seeing our culture, listening to the news. And like I said in the previous behind the scenes and maybe a couple episodes, a lot of my thought process is what the fuck is going on here? Why do people seem to be so crazy? Why do people seem to be, I don't even know the word for it. Why do people just seem to be so self absorbed and keeping their image of themselves as the forefront of who they are versus just enjoying reality and being the person that they are, right? I think a lot of people are living their image and they are creating realities that they want everybody else to prop up for them. I don't know, that may sound crazy. I'm talking off the cuff here, so you know, put in the comments if you hear something here you want to talk about and explore later. Oh, that reminds me, if you enjoy the channel and the content, please subscribe, hit like, drop a comment, and tell me that you're here. Even though I am doing this to help myself process, I guess, admittedly, there's some validation in that other people are also understanding and seeing what I'm saying and want to talk about it more. I'd love to talk with more of you about that. So, getting back to it and looking at our culture and seeing a lot of things and seeing how people are relating to one another, seeing some of these, personality traits and some of these, I don't know what to call them, behaviors, toxic behaviors that I see in people. I just really want to talk about it and try to understand it and then figure out, based on what we're understanding, what do we need to do to take care of ourselves, how self-care, what do we need to do to um, navigate this new reality. I don't think we've had such a display of this emotional immaturity, self-centeredness, and all these things. I don't think we've had that in quite some time. And, you know, it's perplexing. I'm thinking mostly about American culture here. It's perplexing to me why this seems to be our new normal. I think I've talked in previous behind the scenes episodes, more specifically, about why I started this podcast. So I'm going to go kind of way back here a little bit and talk about why I started this podcast. Trying to think of how to put this. I had a tough time. My parents moved in with me, and I am not the type of person who should be living with somebody, let alone their parents, let alone their parents who are emotionally immature, who like to control everything and everybody, and who demand obedience and don't realize that you're damn near 60 years old. They still want that obedience and reverence that a 5-year old would give. And that didn't work out for me. So I packed my bags, packed up my dogs, and moved to the furthest point I could get from where I was, pretty much, almost the furthest point, out to the West Coast. I got out there, 2019, COVID hit, and 2020, we went on lockdown, and I was having a tough time. Not because of the move, I was having a time from an economic perspective because where I moved was really expensive. There were a lot of things with that we can discuss in other episodes, but suffice it to say, during COVID, I ended up working myself to death because I was afraid of losing my job. And that led to some exhaustion. And then that exhaustion led to anxiety, stress. And then that went into a huge depressive episode. I ended up getting a psychiatrist, getting a therapist, and trying to work through it. I got to a point where I really just wanted to lay on my bed in the dark and just do nothing. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to lay on my bed in the dark. It got really bad. Luckily, the meds and stuff kicked in, the therapy kicked in, and it was still rough, but I managed. During that time, my therapist and I talked about why I moved out there, and we talked about, um, I had some lingering resentment and anger because of that. I think that was a huge driver of my depression. That depression, it was a slow roll, massive breakdown. Really huge depressive episode. And I'm not a stranger to that. I've had depression since I was a child. I attempted suicide when I was like 9 years old. So, depression is nothing new for me. I know at this point that was not an answer because I had my dogs and I would never leave my dogs to end up in different homes or whatever. So, I'm good with that. I still got my dogs. Or at least I still have two. One passed away in December 2024. But anywho, as a part of the therapy, my therapist recommended that I start journaling. So I had a journal that I bought in 2015. I think, what were we now, 2021, when this all kicked in. And she recommended that I start journaling again. And she also recommended that I read a book called Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. So I pulled out my dusty old 5-year-old journal, and I was still in my mental capacity. You guys might hear a helicopter. I'm sitting here with the window open. So she gave me some journaling prompts, and I really just wasn't mentally able to do that. And I bought the book. She said, buy the book. I bought the book, and I didn't read the book. Fast forward, what, 2 years, a year and a half, whatever. I end up moving back into my house with my parents. I moved back from across the country back into my house where my parents were living. And that put me back in the environment in which I had tried to escape in 2019. And there was a honeymoon period, and then I realized that no growth actually occurred during the time that I was gone. No self-reflection, none of that. And so we were basically back where we were. I was the adult child of emotionally immature adults. And I remember talking to my brother. It's a long story, but maybe we'll get to it in another episode. I was talking to my brother about something that had happened where my dad was trying to gaslight me about something. And he said, you know what? I just try not to give them any energy. He said, they just act like toddlers. And that got me thinking. First of all, thanks to him for validating that what I was experiencing. And secondly, when he said they acted like toddlers, and he said he tells people he's got two toddlers, and people look at him like he's crazy and they say, oh, well, they're in their 70s. Okay. So that got me thinking, let me pull out that book, The Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. And I tried to read it. And of course, my ADHD kicked in really tough. And I got the audio version of the book. And I started reading the book or listening to the book when I was walking my dogs. And I'll never forget this day. Every time I think about it, I kind of get like a little chill. I was walking my dogs, and Dr. Lindsay Gibson, I think that's her name, was going through and talking about what emotionally immature parents were and some of the characteristics and things like that. And she said, well, they're kind of like toddlers. It's like, aha, okay, they're kind of like toddlers. And so kept listening. I think it probably took me a few days to get to this point. I walked for about a half an hour each day, and I got to a point where I was walking down this one street pretty close to my house, doing my thing, and she starts going through like some of the things she has heard in her sessions with her patients, clients, whatever you call people who attend therapy. And at one point, one thing she says that one of her clients or patients said to her was an exact quote of something my mom has said to me. And as she goes through the book, there are different quotes that where she uses a patient example to explain something. And a lot of those were exact quotes of what I'd heard in my life. And I just remember thinking, wow, wow. Like I had grown up all my life thinking that I was the issue with my relationship with my mom or my dad. Like I was the reason why we had a difficult relationship. I was the reason. And hearing other people actually say the same things that they've heard from their emotionally immature parents made me realize, I got my issues and I know that I'm part of the problem, but it's not on me. If other people are hearing the same thing and it is having a similar impact to them that my parents have on me, and they let me believe, and I'm not going to say they let me believe, they probably truly believe that I am the reason that our relationship sucks. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with them thinking that. I'm not okay with them not having self reflection to maybe reevaluate because everybody jumps to conclusions and shit. Um, but my parents have made me think, mostly my mom has made me think since I was a child, since I was like 5 years old, that I was mean, that I am rude, that I am arrogant. And I was upset that she made a child feel that way, right? But hearing other people hear the quotes from their parents that sound like my mom just really gave me comfort and validation that it's not all me. And I continued to listen to the book. She has a couple other books. I have those books. I haven't read them yet. And she has a journaling book. I haven't started that one, but I just bought them all anyway because it opened my eyes to a lot of things. And that led me to really trying to understand what is emotional immaturity. That led me into narcissism. And a lot of people describe narcissists as toddlers as well. And understanding that emotional immaturity is on a spectrum, that we can all be emotionally immature, that while narcissists are emotionally immature, not all emotionally immature people are narcissists. That also led me to understand that narcissism is on a spectrum and that we can all exhibit narcissistic traits. We're not going to talk about NPD on this channel because that is a diagnosis and we're not going to get into that. But I think we're going to talk a lot about how these emotionally immature behaviors impact us, how they seem to be normalized in our society. We're going to talk about why is our society seem to be overrun by emotional immaturity? Where did this come from? What can people who have self-awareness, take accountability, have empathy and understand their impact on people, what can we do to navigate this whole arena? That's what this whole channel is all about. We're not going to diagnose people. We are going to talk about behaviors and what we're seeing. And we're just going to work through this whole thing together. We are going to work through this together. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about our experiences, seek understanding, build a community. That's what I'm looking to do because I'm tired of feeling alone and seeing all this stuff and feeling like I only have two choices. First, either understand and try to cope, or two, hide. And I don't want to be the one that hides. And I want to talk about what tips and tricks we can do to deal because I don't care what any of these channels out here tell you. Right? These people out here are going to tell you a lot of things. But one thing they can't guarantee is all these tips and tricks are not going to lessen the impact. I guess the example I have is if someone punches you in the face and apologizes, that doesn't lessen the impact of them punching you in the face, right? That doesn't lessen the impact of them punching you in the face. And that's part of the issue is that people think they can do things to you. They can have this behavior and this impact, and you're just supposed to act like nothing happened. There's no impact. Well, fuck yeah, there's an impact. There's an impact. And we have to live with that. And it's how do you live with that? When do you decide that you want to make sure you let them know the impact, whether it's worth it or not? There's tons of things. There's tons of stuff for us to talk about. So we're going to talk about it. You might hear me actually on a walk and talk. We're going to talk about it because sometimes these thoughts occur when I'm outside with my dog. I'm a real person out here struggling to make it through life and understand the reality that I'm in. And I want to learn to navigate that to my best ability. And if anything that I've been through can help you have a shortcut to your healing and getting to the point where you can navigate these things better too, then I will have done my job. All of us who are going through a healing journey right now, one of the things I think that's most important is if we can help someone take a shortcut through the darkness, let's do that. All right, I've rattled on for way too long. I don't even know if I'm going to put it up and we'll see what happens. It'll probably get no views. That's fine. But, the goal here today was let you guys know how the channel got roasted. We'll probably talk about some of the other changes that happened because of the channel getting roasted and how that's impacting some of the changes. I'm still going to do some of the long form stuff, but I'm going to pop in here more often and do some of this off the cuff thing because I want you to know I'm not AI and that I'm a person out here struggling just like everybody else. And I'm just trying to make it, survive, and understand the world that I'm in, understand myself better, and try to help people. That's all I got. Thank you for listening to Rage Against the Audacity. If you resonate with this content, please hit like and subscribe and drop a comment and let me know how you're doing and what you want to see and hear on this channel. Looking forward to taking this journey with you.